We're going to start by getting into a deep lunge position, bending that back knee, keeping it just off of the ground. First variation is to chop your arms up and back. As your arms get tall, you really want to drive your belly button forward by squeezing your glute on the back leg, and that will stretch and load the hip flexor and quad on that back leg. Staying really tall, you may feel your abdominals as well. You should not feel your lower back. If you are, you need to re-squeeze your glute. Getting into a different plane here, your arms now are going to chop side to side. So big, tall reach through your arms, through your ribs, maintaining the same posture through the lunge so that back knee is close to the ground, keeping that glute engaged so your hip is tucked, and again stretching that hip flexor quad on the back leg, just doing it with a different path of motion. And then last variation is to rotate and twist through your upper body, maintaining that same posture, staying tall through the ribs, big reach through your arms. And again, the stretch is for that back leg, hip flexor, and quad. Next, we're going to be doing a squat variation, and the arms are always going to be reaching around mid-shin to overhead. This first footprint is going to have your right foot forward. With all these different foot placement variations, you're going to work on keeping both heels down on the ground. We're going to have 6 different variations. Notice as I'm tall, my belly button's coming forward, tucking your pelvis. And you should feel a stretch in your hip flexors, the anterior part of your hip, and it'll come up through your abdominals if you can keep your ribs nice and high. You should not feel your lower back. As I'm getting low, I'm keeping a nice arch in my lower back, so that is going to engage my hamstrings. So this variation, my feet are wide, followed by a narrow variation. So both of these are frontal plane footprints. This is a more of a knee dominant move. And then lastly, we have some transverse plane variations. My feet are positioned a little wider than shoulder width, and my toes are turned out. And just like all the previous variations, I'm reaching down around mid-shin, reaching towards the floor, and then reaching overhead and back. Last footprint will be toed in. It's going to wind up your hips. This is probably one of the tougher ones, but you'll notice each one will be different and specific for you based on what your restrictions are with your mobility. Here we're going to focus on some deceleration. How well can you absorb as you land? So we're going to do a light jump, and what we're going to do is a basic squat jump, but I'm going to vary my feet by alternating them, landing one foot in front of the other. Just like the previous squat variation, once I land, I'm going to allow my heels to come all the way down to the ground. So the first one was a forwards to backwards. This next one is a frontal plane variation by having my feet land wide and narrow. All my landings are soft and absorbing, maintaining a nice tall spine, keeping a nice arch in the lower back so that the legs take the brunt of all the force. And then this last one, a little awkward, is going to be landing with a toe out and a toe in variation. Lastly, for a little bit of some energy system work, we're going to go through some jumping jack variations. Now these jumping jacks are going to look a little different, probably some that you've never seen, because the arms and legs will be moving in sync with one another as opposed to in opposition. So this first one is a forwards and backwards variation. This is an in sync frontal plane, so jumping side to side with my lower body, and my arms are also moving side to side. And then this last one is a transverse plane, a big kind of corkscrew type motion. Have fun.